Nestled between an array of famous, important psukim in our parsha, we find a pasuk that sometimes overlooked might be just as important. Va'asisa hayashar v'hatov. Sometimes you will find this pasuk plastered above an Aron Kodesh as somewhat of a mission statement, an all-encompassing verse, an all-encompassing idea to do what's right in the eyes of God. 5 simple words for us to live by. But I'd like to make a point based on a talk by Rabbi Yerucham Levavitz, the great spiritual dean of Yeshivas Mir during the Roaring Twenties, that the last 2 words of this pasuk are more important than the first 3. The pasuk tells us that there is a proper and right way. Rashi tells us this is about making compromises and not being so strict with everything that you do, being someone who is able to bend and be flexible in their judgment and view of other people, and specifically in the laws of halacha, being able to bend. If you look at Ramban here, he gives an even more in-depth overview of the mitzvah, Asisa v'hayashar v'hatov. But Rabbi Yerucham Levavitz tells us that the most important words here are be'enei Hashem. Right, so Loimar, he says, Loim mashehu yashar be'einecha. Not what we see to be the proper and straight path. Avol mashehu yashar, as the last 2 words state, be'enei Hashem, in the eyes of God. Rabbi Yerucham expounds upon this idea, describing our brains and our insides to be very much of a cholent pot. What he says is that our heads are filled with fears, worries, struggles, hopes, dreams, aspirations, anxieties, many different feelings. And with this big cholent pot of emotion mixed together, it is often hard to see what is proper and what is just. Let's not get it confused. There is a proper path, one lone single highway that is just, that is right. The upright Mesilas Yeshar. That path is the way of the Torah. That path is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kudsha Barichu Chadhu. God and His Torah are one entity. That path is the proper path. That path is the just path. Tzaddik ve'yashar hu is how Hashem is described. A tzaddik, and it is yashar. Pekudei Hashem, the laws of God, Torah study, is yesharim. It's straight. Mesamchei lev. They gladden the heart. It's why we cannot learn on Tisha B'Av, for this pasuk tells us that the proper and just way is God, and that brings happiness to the heart. To venture outside the walls of Shulchan Aruch, to traverse a path outside of basic halacha, is a very dangerous area to be in. For outside of the Daled Amos Shel Halacha, things become very uncertain. We're not exactly sure where to turn. But lucky for us, we have a Shulchan Aruch. We understand the straight and the proper path. I want to give you 2 examples that show and bring out the differences in how we may feel that leads to one decision, and what the yashar and proper decision is, and how we can join the 2. Picture this. There's a big guest in town, a holy rabbi, who's giving a talk at Shalosh Shidduchos, and you plan on going. Shabbos afternoon, as you are eating your cholent, a piece of barley dripping in its meat and oil of the cholent falls from your fork onto your shirt. You now have a dirty shirt. You want to meet this rabbi and give a good impression. Perhaps you even want to strike up a conversation with him. And the last thing that you want is a big cholent stain on your shirt. So, you look down and brush the cholent piece away, but now left behind is a stain on that shirt. We may want to sponge the stain out of our shirt, saying, wait, I cannot meet a righteous Talmud Chacham with a stain on my shirt. I need to make a good impression. Perhaps it's even a Chilul Hashem for me to go out with a stain on my shirt. But we know that Shulchan Aruch tells us that there are 39 prohibitions on Shabbos, and doing laundry at any level is prohibited. You can ask your local Orthodox rabbi what to do and how properly to proceed to get rid of the stain, but it's prohibited, according to Shulchan Aruch, to scratch out or even try to do any level of laundry on that stain. Our emotions are swayed back and forth. We must always stick to following the tzaddik v'yashar hu, Hashem and His Torah. A second example. After closing a nice business deal, You walk out of your office and you see the client that you did work with, a nice woman, and she sticks out her hand to say, "Good deal, Yasher Koach." There's a machlokas amongst the poskim. What's a Kiddush Hashem here? Should you stick your hand out again and shake her hand because you don't want to embarrass her? That's what some poskim maintain. And some poskim posit that, no, you should kindly say, "I'm sorry, I am very particular about the women that I touch." Let's just take that second approach for a minute. According to those poskim, the reason that is although it may seem proper in our minds to, of course, how could you embarrass the poor woman? But there's also a halacha. There is the overarching tzaddik v'yashar hu pekudei Hashem that governs our lives. King Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles tells us, "Heima bikshu cheshbonos rabbis." We constantly are making evaluations and calculations upon the right thing to do, and it is our job to get as close as possible to the Yashar path, the path of God. It's not always an easy thing. Even Shaul fell prey to this when he left a few of the Amalekians' animals, taking compassion upon the innocent animals. What we always think to be right, we need to run through a filter of what the Ratzon Hashem is. Our job is undisputedly v'asisa hayashar v'hatov, do what is proper and right, but we must never forget perhaps the two most important following words, be'enei Hashem. Always do Ratzon Hashem. Always ask yourself, what will this look like through the eyes of halacha and through the eyes of God? Always do good. Always seek justice. Always search for the proper path. Just make sure that it's also the proper path, be'enei Hashem.